This is my Astro-Physics 6-inch Eagle tripod. I've got two of them. This is my second one that I got in order. And some time back, a few years back, I did a video on how to, oh, that's my neighbor going by tooting, where I took the feet and put rubber washers on it, and it worked out good. They were thin, very thin rubber washers that you can get. I'm going to try something different on this one that I did last week on my last Mandy tripod, using a different product. So this is what I'm going to use. It's actually 1/4 inch thick rubber stock that goes on semis, or that you would put on for mud flaps for heavy equipment. And I used the same thing on my last Mandy tripod, and I love it. So instead of going with the thinner material that I used on my previous Astro-Physics 6-inch Eagle, we're going to put this on, and we're going to epoxy it on. So the feet are 2 1/4 inches in diameter, and so I cut this 2 1/2, and we'll just epoxy it on there like that. I had thought about possibly just cutting the corners off a little bit, but it'll be fine just like this. I did check to see if I could find a big punch that was this diameter or 2 1/2 inches, so that I could punch this out round. There's no way I'm going to cut this nice round by hand, so better off just to have it square, and then that way it doesn't look bad. Where if I tried to cut it round, it would look like hell, because it just wouldn't match. For here, this will look fine. But I checked with Snap-on, because I have some gasket punches that go up to 1 inch, and they don't have anything bigger, a set that goes like this big. So that's why I just elected to go this route right here. This should work just fine. So the first thing I've got to do, I could take these feet off, but I'm not going to. You'll see why. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some 50 grit. You could use 50, 60, 80. But I'm going to take and sand the bottom surface. Even though this is rough here, I want to rough up the center. So we're going to take all 3 of these and rough up that aluminum surface. So I'll just take this sandpaper and go over it. We want to prep the surface to be rough for something when we epoxy it, to get a little bit better grip. So what I've done is I've done the inside and the outside, as you can see there. And that looks good, just a little bit more in the center. Yeah, that looks fine, just like that. As you can see, it's flat out here to about 1/4 inch, then it dips in. So I want when my epoxy is going to fill this whole area, so that's why we want to make sure that it's all rough like this, like you see. Alright, so now that we've got all 3 feet done, I want to take and blow off all the dust that we've created, the aluminum dust. And then when you're done with that, you want to make sure you clean your hands off, because that dust is going to get everywhere. So you want to make sure you don't get dust around on the tripod, which could migrate then to the telescope. So we'll go to the next step here, and we're going to get ready to glue or to epoxy all the feet on. So next we have an important process, and that is to clean not only the base of each foot, but the edge. Make sure there's no dirt, because when I do this, some of the epoxy is going to go over. So any surface that it touches, I want it to adhere to. So although I'm not going to etch this, I'm not going to sand this outside diameter, just the face. So what I'm doing is I'm taking lacquer thinner and I'm going to put it on this heavier duty paper towel, and I will go over the exterior or the diameter, and then also the inside, the bottom of this, just like that. And I'm going to do it 2-3 times with clean paper because I want to make sure that I have it absolutely clean. Now what I'm going to do is the back side of this paper, I like lacquer thinner in a spray bottle. This is a very good spray bottle. This just holds up in industrial. I'll get it from a dealer that deals in paint supplies here locally, because it allows me to put it on easily. And if I'm doing work on my car in the garage and I get grease, I just wipe up the grease and then just spray the lacquer thinner on top of it and clean anything that's left behind. So what you want to do is you want to make sure the paper comes clean for your final. It's pretty much clean now. I'm going to do it one more time, then I'm going to do the other two. So all the feet have been cleaned with lacquer thinner. I also took the feet and I marked the bottom so that I knew that I was going to glue this side. Then I took the lacquer thinner and was meticulous and took whatever it took to get all the black that I would get off on the rag. Took multiple times on each one and cleaned these. So now they are ready to epoxy like that on each foot. So I've now got the tripod in my garage, which is where I'm going to epoxy the feet. Now you'll notice that I have wax paper underneath each foot. I've just taken a sheet and doubled it up, and that's to ensure that we keep any dirt off of this. So when I brought this in the garage, obviously I had to set this down on the garage floor. I swept it, but then I just before I put each wax paper sheet underneath, I again just wiped it off with lacquer thinner to ensure cleanliness. So now for the epoxy, I just use this JB Weld Clear Weld 5-minute epoxy. It works out really good. And then to mix it, I just simply use toothpicks. They're cheap and they work great. Okay, so let's go ahead and mix this up, and I'm going to work fast with this. And I've got wax paper that I mix this on. I take a piece, fold it in half, and then fold that in half, so I have 4 layers. And then I will use that to mix up the epoxy. The beauty of this is when it's done, you just throw everything out. Also, when you're working with this, make sure you do not leave this behind for any pets, dogs, cats to get into. It would be devastating if they got it in their mouth, paws, and also children. So that's why I do it on this. As soon as I'm done, I throw it out. Make sure that it cannot be accessed by anybody that shouldn't. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let me take my pad and put it on. Just like that. Now you want to make sure you've got your lacquer thinner handy, because you're going to get this on your hands and your fingers. No big deal, but you just want to make sure that you clean it off right away. As long as you get it off, you're good to go. Just put it on like that. And then the reason we've got this wax paper on here is because if some of it runs over, you don't want to get it on your floor, your garage floor, wherever you're doing it, basement, whatever you might, and you'll see when we're done, if some does go over, the wax paper comes off very easy. So I find this to be the best way to do it. Okay, that looks like it's evenly. Get more on here. And we're doing it this way because we're going to let the weight of the tripod itself help work as a clamp. The weight pushing down. So now I will put that underneath here. Try to get it close to even. We're not building a church. It doesn't have to be perfect. That looks even on all sides pretty much. And there's that. Let's see, should I rotate it just a little bit? Maybe like that. And then we'll let this dry. I'm going to wait about five minutes or so. Then I'll go ahead and do the next one, so that when I do lift the other side up, I want to make sure I don't shift anything here. This is a 5-minute epoxy. So let me get my hands clean here. You'll see I've got some on my fingers. So put your lacquer thinner on your rag. Again, it's all disposable. Very clean. And then you'll see where I did the mixing. Fold that up, throw it out in your garbage. No children or pets will get into it. You're good to go. So all 3 feet have been epoxied. We're just going to wait for everything to set up, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright guys, so it's been a few hours. Let's take a look at it and see how it turned out. And see, that's why I use the wax paper, because there is a little bit, you can see it, there's a little bit that got on there, and now it won't transfer to the concrete or whatever surface you're using, and it's done. So it sets up in about 5 minutes, and the total cure time, I think, is going to be longer than what this is sat, but it's not going to go anywhere. We're fine for what this is, so now I can put this into use.